Hi, I'm Youssef Mellah, PhD, Senior Data Scientist at Johnson Labs, and welcome to the Healthcare AI Podcast. Today, we are exploring how AI protects patient privacy while analyzing medical data. I'm joined by Srikanth, Rana, Solutions Architects at Databricks. We'll dive into data identifying and connecting data from unstructured clinical notes, tables, DICOMs, and PDFs using advanced AI models. Discover practical insights on large scale, privacy compliant research meeting HIPAA and GDPR standards. If you are passionate about advancing healthcare with AI, you are in the right place. Let's get started.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. I'm Srikanth Rana. I'm a solutions architect at Databricks. And today, Yusuf and I are going to talk about how you can build an end to end solution for regulatory grade multimodal data de-identification and tokenization using Databricks and Johnson Labs. So, let's understand regulatory grade de identification in healthcare. It's the process of removing, masking, or transforming personally identifiable information or protected health information from datasets to meet strict legal and regulatory standards. The purpose here is to ensure that data cannot be traced back to a specific individual. It's also important to minimize any kind of like re-identification risk while preserving analytical value for research, analytic, and regulatory data submission purposes. But why does it matter? Well, it's required for regulations such as HIPAA, GDPR, and CCPA. Health systems and insurers that do not comply with these regulations attract legal penalties and reputational damage. De identification also helps with risk mitigation. It reduces the risk of data breaches, unauthorized disclosures, and regulatory penalties. Data de identification also acts as a data utility. It helps organizations use and share data for insights and innovation without exposing sensitive information. And finally, regulatory frameworks require documentation, justified risk assessments, and transparent de identification processes for auditing purposes. Now, let's see how Databricks enables secure and compliant de identification of sensitive information. It does that through a combination of compliance features, security best practices, and platform features. Let's look at them one by one. Databricks supports multiple compliance with several industry specific and international regulatory requirements such as HIPAA, GDPR, CCPA, PCI DSS. When it comes to security, Databricks has worked with thousands of customers in deploying Databricks data intelligence platform that meets the security, privacy, and regulatory requirements of the organization. While many organizations deploy security differently, there are patterns and features that are commonly used by most organizations. Here are the most relevant controls, that is, define security controls, deploy security controls, and monitor security controls. Let us look at some de identification techniques native to the Databricks platform. So, Unity Catalog Fine Grained Access Control is a native capability that allows you to implement row level filters and column level masking on tables to filter and protect sensitive data. You can also create dynamic views to protect sensitive data at query time. This option is specifically useful for more advanced SQL based logic and complex SQL expressions that spans multiple tables. Databricks platform also has several de-identification techniques using built-in functions. For example, you can leverage regex underscore replace to implement anonymization of sensitive columns. Databricks also has built-in AES, the advanced encryption standard-based functions that converts data into unreadable ciphertext. This is especially useful if encryption and decryption are needed for data at rest, data in transit, and data in processing. Hash is a built-in function that converts data into irreversible deterministic hash values. This is helpful in scenarios when there is a need to perform data integrity checks. Mask is another built-in function that helps with partial or complete data concealment. It's helpful when there is a need to display data to authorized users in a user-friendly format. So far we have seen several techniques to implement de-identification of structured and semi-structured data. I'll now hand it over to Youssef to cover multimodal data de-identification and tokenization using Databricks and Johnson Labs.
Thank you, Srikanth. Hi, everyone. This is Youssef. I'm happy to be with you today in order to present, in coordination with Srikanth, of course, the Johnson Labs multimodal medical data identification and tokenization or obfuscation at scale using um, Databricks. So, but before starting, what is multimodal identification? So, as you know, the multimodal identification is the process of removing patient identifiable information across all data types. So, for example, for the same patient, we can have multi-type of documents. For example, clinical notes, tables, or structured data. You can have some DICOM images, SVS, or PDFs, either selectable or scanned PDFs for each patient. Okay. So the goal here is to ensure every modality is identified and all data for the same patient remains consistently linked. Okay, so the role here or the goal is to identify, and if we want to, let's say, uh, obfuscate, and the same regulatory compliance requires complete, consistent identification across modalities. And also, we need to keep the linkage between the the data or the obfuscated PHIs. So this will enable research and analytics on multi-source data without exposing patient identities. So the first check is we need to check if the data or if the document type is visual. If it is visual, so here we need some of the OCR techniques that are included in the Johnson Labs Visual NLP in order to extract the data from the, let's say, the scanned images or, for example, scanned PDFs or, for example, from the DICOM pixels. So after that, we can just feed the text into the Spark and the healthcare NLP. Or if we have, let's say, free text, like clinical free text, uh, we can just feed the text into the Spark NLP healthcare or healthcare NLP pipeline to detect the PHIs, after that to the identified PHIs. For example, some of the entities we can configure to mask the patient name, doctor name, and we can configure to obfuscate the SSN, MRN, and skip some of the other entities and so on. So here it is fully flexible. Okay. And for this Spark and healthcare NLP pipeline, so we do have multiple protein pipelines that you can use out of the box. And also you can build your custom pipeline with your custom NER models. Also, we do have multiple NER models that can detect PHIs according to the rules. Also, you can train your custom NER model to have a strong pipeline tailored for your data for the identification purpose. So here is the first notebook. Here, the case study is that we assume that we have just one patient named Martin Chad with just one clinical note, one PDF, scanned PDF, one structured data, one DICOM file, okay? Just to, for the experimentation, to show you how to achieve the multimodal medical data identification and obfuscation. So here, so let me zoom in a little bit just to see the code. So here, first thing that you need is to import the Johnson Labs library, NLP, visual, and medical. Okay, so let me run this cell. Okay, here we do have the NER healthcare NLP pipeline. So remember that in the slide here, as you can see, uh, we have the Spark and healthcare NLP components in which we need to feed the text to establish the identification. Okay, so it is the same component. Either we have uh, the free text or visual NLP text. So we need this Spark and healthcare NLP components or pipeline that is based on, let's say, linear models to detect PHIs, okay? And it is fully flexible. You can build your own pipeline with your own stages, and also you can just use your own, train your own linear model and put it in the same pipeline, or use multiple models with multiple regex and rule-based approaches to reinforce the pipeline to detect well the wall, let's say, PHIs that you have in your data. Regarding the patient Martin chart, we have patient name Martin chart, we have date of birth, we have some of the history, medical history. Here we have the age, here we have the same name, and so on. Okay, so let's apply the model identification pipeline and see the results, the outputs. So as you can see here, we have the initial document. Okay, we have the initial text, and here we have the identified text with entity label. Okay, so Martin chart, it is identified with the name, date of birth with dates. Here again we have Martin chart. Okay, the name Martin chart, so it is well detected and identified with entity label name. And here we have the age. As you can see, it is well detected and identified with age label. So here the first row, so we have some of the information regarding the same patient, which is Martin chart. Patient name, date of birth, it is the same date of birth. We have the age and some of the other information. And here we have other patients. Okay, we are interested in the same patient, which is Martin chart. So this is the input. So let me see the output regarding the masking. Okay, so as you can see here, for the patient name, the whole patient name are masked with asterisks and the date of birth and age. Okay, so we can configure here what are the PHIs or the columns to be, of course, to be masked. Okay, good. So here, so let's load and see the Martin chart PDF. So let me display it here to see the input, how it looks like. So it is a PDF. So it is clinical note Martin chart PDF. So as you can see here, we have the scanned PDF. Okay. So patient name, date of birth. We have some of the medical history for the same patient here. We have some of the texts, and at the end we have some the same date of birth and patient name. Okay, let's see now, after applying the identification pipeline, PDF identification pipeline on our PDF, let's see side by side output comparison between the inputs and the outputs. Okay, so here, as you can see, this is in the left, this is the original PDF, and this is the masked PDF. So I'm loading Martin chart on DICOM related to Martin chart. So as you can see here, we have some of the metadata, and here we have the let's say the DICOM image or the pixel of the DICOM. So as you can see here, we have some of the radiology, some of the DICOM regarding Martin chart, and some of the information. So here we have PHI. As you can see, we have the patient name. So let's apply the the, the DICOM identification pipeline to see the output of the data feed. Let's see the DICOM data obfuscation. Again, so we add some visual NLP components at the beginning, and after that we put it all together into one pipeline with of course with healthcare NLP pipeline, and we just load our DICOM, the same DICOM. So here we have the inputs. Okay, we have the metadata of the same patient, which is Martin chart. This is the input, and as you can see here, we have the pixel image, so Martin chart and the date. Okay, let's see the output from the obfuscated or the DICOM obfuscation pipeline. So here we fit the pipeline, we transform, and we got the results. So let's see the results. Here we have the image. So let's see. Yeah, so as you can see here, so let me zoom in a little bit if I can, just to show you. So as you can see here, so the Martin chart is obfuscated into Marian Galius, which is the same value as we had in the structured, unstructured, and also in the PDF. Okay, so it is Marian Galius and also the same obfuscated date as well. I think that's all regarding the demo. So we have two notebooks, one for multimodal masking, and the second one for multimodal obfuscation for the same patient, in which we have multiple modalities, multiple document types, and we keep consistency while obfuscating. Also, we mask the whole PHIs, and it is fully flexible. You can play with the pipeline. You can build your custom pipeline using Johnson Labs capabilities.